With the unfortunate possibility of nuclear warfare on the horizon, I often get the question, would an anthracite coal mine make for a great doomsday bunker? This is a question that is nothing new. People have been pondering that very question since the inception of the atomic bomb. In this video, we'll look at one such example that was proposed. So the article we're going to look at today comes from a January 2nd, 1951 issue of the Plain Speaker, which was a newspaper from Hazleton, Pennsylvania. It's simply titled, "Coal Mines as Bomb Shelters." Some fantastic ideas are being advanced in connection with the possible use of abandoned hard coal mines as bomb shelters should there be war with Russia. The question is being considered by some civil defense councils, it is said, but it is extremely doubtful whether the plan would work. The suggestion that old mine workings could be converted into shelters stems from New York, where the subways would afford considerable protection. Proposals for such shelters have reached the stage where New York authorities may request a federal loan for financing the project. Some mining authorities say that with a reasonable outlay for ventilation and sanitation, anthracite workings that are no longer operative might be available for shelters, but the big obstacle is how they could be reached in case of an attack. It would be necessary for people to go through deep shafts, which if closed, will make them death traps. The workings are not centrally located, and to let persons down in cars is a slow process when it is taken into account that thousands would want to get into the underground chambers. Most of these old workings have caved in and might be as much of a menace as the effects of an atomic bomb. Along with the shelter idea for the populace, the suggestion has been renewed that mine shafts be made suitable for housing of industrial plants in production of defense material. This has some elements of feasibility, but otherwise they would offer nothing really practicable as security against the bomb. And that concludes the article itself. So I'll offer my expert opinion on this matter. First off, it's important to note that this article was written in 1951. The Cold War was just in its infancy back then. However, even today, in 2025, we're still facing the same threats from the same countries, one being Russia. It's also important to note that when this article was being written in 1951, during that era, the mines were still mostly open. In Hazleton, the mines were working up until 1960 and even later. Because the anthracite coal mines would have still been open back then, that means there would have been an overabundance of entrances that people could have easily gotten into and down into the underground coal mine workings themselves. The mine tunnels would have been relatively in decent condition too, again, because most of the collieries were still producing anthracite coal. A good point raised in the article asks, how are you going to get thousands and thousands of panicking people underground in a timely fashion before any nuclear weapons go off? Let's face it, if there was to be an attack, most people would be completely caught off guard, even our government. So say if this theoretical underground fallout shelter was constructed and it was absolutely perfect, it might just be sitting down there in the dark, unoccupied, because people never got the chance to even get underground in the first place. This article was talking about lowering people down, hoisting cages, and or, I assume, haulage slopes. In my opinion, if this was to have any type of chance, people would have to walk in. So you would need some sort of drift, which is also known as a mine tunnel. It's essentially just a horizontal tunnel that goes into a mine. You're not going to be able to hoist people down these slopes or down the compartmental shafts. Like, what are you going to do when the nuke goes off? It's going to sever the wire rope. It's going to be really bad, and it's just not practical. It would be a nightmare navigating these tunnels in the dark, especially for a civilian population that has never been underground before in their lives. There would have to be a ton of generators, there would have to be lots of electricity, and then there would have to be a fallout shelter, bunker, whatever you want to call it, in the mine itself. There would have to be this enclosed structure. I would imagine, maybe I'm wrong, I'm not an expert with fallout, but there would have to be some sort of air-sealed structure. At a minimum, there would have to be some sort of filtration unit for the air itself in the mine. Otherwise, that completely defeats the purpose of the fallout shelter, and you're just breathing in radioactive fallout deep underground in this mine. The article also points out that what are you going to do if the mine essentially caves in? You're just going to entomb the population that has sought refuge in the mine, and that's just as destructive as the nuclear weapon. Which is totally true. I've been going underground in these abandoned Pennsylvania anthracite coal mines now for over 2 decades. And I can honestly say that an abandoned Pennsylvania anthracite coal mine would be one of the last places I would want to be during a nuclear explosion. They're already sketchy as all hell. Now, what happens when a nuclear blast shockwave is rocketing over that mine entrance and then undoubtedly entering the mine itself? It would shake the hell out of that mine. There would definitely be huge cave-ins near the portal. If there was a blast right near it, I don't even know what would happen. I would imagine the blast would just enter a good portion of that mine and create all types of issues. There's so many variables that could go wrong there, in my opinion. You have your electricity and power. Who knows what could go wrong there? You have your air ventilation, things such as mold that you have to battle. You have sanitation. That is a big, big one. If they were going to do this fallout shelter in an anthracite coal mine, it would have to be fully stocked before an attack. Things such as food and water would already have to be in place. They actually did do that in Shamokin, Pennsylvania, in the Glenburn Colliery, believe it or not, right under Route 61, I'm told. Now, this idea for that particular mine was a little bit more practical, in my opinion, because it was a drift mine, a tunnel. These drift tunnels, like the Glenburn here, would allow for maximum amounts of people getting underground in a timely fashion. Compared to vertical haulage shafts or slopes, people could just show up at the tunnel and run in. Literally run in large numbers too. The Glenburn coal mine did stockpile massive amounts of crackers and cans of water for drinking in case of a nuclear attack. People did explore that mine post-abandonment, and apparently the crackers and water were still down there, which is pretty interesting as of like the late 1990s. They also had medical kits stockpiled. The medical aspect would be a whole other logistical nightmare underground. How do you take care of a large populace in such primitive conditions, such as an old abandoned anthracite coal mine? Not everyone that would arrive to the fallout shelter would be in good medical condition. There would undoubtedly be some elderly, some sickly, and maybe even some people that got hurt on their way over in the chaos of getting to the fallout shelter. From the stress of everything going on, given the fact that your hometown has just been nuked, I would imagine there would be heart attacks, strokes. Some people would probably even go mad underground and would have to be restrained. It would definitely be chaotic in this bunker. I'm also wondering if a blast door would be required for these coal mine entrances. Earlier, I mentioned what would happen if the nuke went off right near the coal mine entrance and how it could potentially enter the mine workings. Would a blast door then be required for the safety of the mine? It's important to remember that most of the coal pillars have also been mined out of these old abandoned anthracite coal mines, meaning very little is holding that roof up. So that nuclear blast, even if it's not a direct hit right near the coal mine site, it would rattle the living hell out of that coal mine. And if you survive any collapse that occurs and you're entombed, nobody's going to rescue you because everyone's dead on the surface, unfortunately. That's a hard thing to imagine, but yeah, there would be no rescue most likely coming from the surface if you had any problems in that fallout shelter. Now I'm really going down the rabbit hole here, but given the nature of people, how do you prevent those in the bunker from infighting, such as stealing food reserves? Essentially, how do you police the population underground that is in this bunker? Back in 1951, when this article was written, there was so many mine entrances left intact. In 2025, you're not going to have any of that really. Most of the mines, if not all of them, have been bulldozed shut and or backfilled, built over, or completely lost to time. The government could theoretically find these mine entrances, dig them back open, fix up the structural integrity of the mine, retrofit it to act as a state-of-the-art fallout shelter. But is that really practical? The more I'm talking about this coal mine fallout shelter bunker thing, I would say personally, you're better off going in your own backyard and digging your own bunker and stockpiling it, doing your own air ventilation, etc. The main reason being it's really not practical to leave your house and try to get to a bunker in time. It's just not going to happen. You may, and the key word there is may, just have enough time to get into your backyard or basement or wherever you have decided to build your own fallout shelter. Let us hope and pray to God, however, that nuclear Armageddon never happens. There will be no winners of that conflict, that's for sure. Overall, my take on the anthracite coal mine fallout shelter is, on paper, it's a great idea. Practically speaking, however, not so much. This was a fun little video to theorize about. I'm interested in my subscribers' views on this video. Let me know. Thank you to all of my dedicated followers who watch my content. I truly appreciate you more than you'll ever know. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And until my next upload, see you later.